thanks for joining me today. As always, make sure you're cleared by a doctor before participating in any physical activity. Today I'm going to break down the pose downward facing dog. Although this is a really common yoga pose, it is actually pretty difficult. I wouldn't consider it a beginner pose, and it doesn't work for everyone. If you're new to yoga and you've never done a downward facing dog before, I'd suggest some cat-cows to begin. Or if you're not warmed up yet, let's definitely start in some cat-cows to really open up the chest, the spine, and the shoulders. Coming onto your hands and knees, I'm going to spread all 10 fingers out really wide and place them right underneath my shoulders. My knees are under my hips, at least hips width distance apart. On my inhale breath, I'm going to lift my tailbone, drop my stomach, and open the heart through my arms, really spreading wide across the collarbones and pressing into the palm. As I exhale, my tailbone tucks, my spine rounds, my chin comes into my chest. Flowing through this a few times and feeling free to add on anything else that feels good. Rocks of the hips, the head, the neck, the wrists. Especially if you have wrist injuries, it's a good idea to circle through the hips to kind of lubricate the wrists a bit. Prior wrist injuries. If you have wrist injuries as of now, I wouldn't recommend a down dog. But again, make sure you're cleared by your doctor. From here, we're going to take the hands about a half handprint forward to create a little more space in the arms and the shoulders. I'm going to tuck my toes. I'm going to keep my knees really bent. I'm going to start to lift my knees off the mat, and as I do so, I'm going to use my palms to press my shoulders and my hips back. Notice my knees stay bent. I'm attempting to bring my stomach towards my thighs. From here, we'll perfect the upper body first. So here, I'm hugging my ears with my biceps as they kind of spin outward, that external rotation. And my triceps are wrapping around me towards the inside of my face. All 10 fingers are spread out really wide, which can sometimes be hard here. I'm pressing even weight in all 10 of my fingers. And then you'll notice here my spine is long and my shoulders are back. I have a tendency to see the legs extended and the shoulders rounded and over the wrists. That's not what we want here. Keep the knees bent, stomach on thighs to get that length in the spine first. Find that wrapping in the triceps. And then from here, if you're feeling ready, you can start to straighten through the legs. Notice as I straighten through the legs, I don't want my spine coming forward or my shoulders rounded, but rather I want to continue to press back. So if that means your heels don't touch the ground today or ever, that's completely okay. Find that integrity in the spine first. And then from here, we're really working the hamstrings, so sometimes it's nice to pedal out. So essentially, this is a downward facing dog. Really strengthening the shoulders here. I'm opening the shoulders. If you're really tight in the shoulders, you can angle your fingertips towards the corners of your mat rather than having them straight forward. And you can also take them wider than shoulder width. If I'm extra tight in the hamstrings, either bend my knees more or take the feet wider than hips width distance. I'm going to come back onto my knees to rest my shoulders. Another option if you're feeling wrist pain or shoulder pain, you can bring your hands onto some foam blocks and do everything the same, just have that added cushion underneath the hands. People modify if you have wrist injuries by taking the forearms for a dolphin variation, which is similar. I'll go through that in another video, but if you do have wrist injuries, definitely skip the downward facing dog and talk to your doctor. As always, feel free to let me know if you have any specific questions, and feel free to ask your local yoga teacher if you take their classes for some support during this pose. Although it is most common, it is actually a very difficult pose. So give yourself credit and learn how to do it correctly so you don't end up injuring yourself. But the main thing is just make sure all those 10 fingers are spread out wide, you're pressing weight evenly into them, and the spine is being lifted and the hips are going back rather than rounded and forward. And don't be afraid to bend the knees. I personally always have a bend in my knees. Thanks for watching. Take care.